Morning, friends. Today I wish to speak to you on the subtle energy system within us and how the subtle energy system of the Virata Purusha or the cosmic Purusha or the cosmic being influences us and how we can regulate each other and bring the energy system into balance. So, if we look at our own anatomy, anatomists describe two nervous systems in the human body: the cerebrospinal and the sympathetic system. The cerebrospinal begins with the brain, continues down along the spinal cord, and ramifies to all parts of the body through the ganglia, from which nerves issue between every two successive vertebrae. The sympathetic system consists of two cords which run almost the whole length of the spine, situated a little forward of its axis and to the right and left, respectively. So, from the ganglia of these two cords, sympathetic cords proceed to form the network systems called the plexus, from which, in turn, as from relay stations, emerge smaller terminal ganglia and nerves. So, in addition to this, we have a third group called the vagus nerves, which arise from the medulla oblongata and descend independently far into the body, mingling constantly with the nerves and plexuses of the other systems. Human beings cannot avoid these two influences. Each person carries two channels of energy, which reproduce the two great biological rhythms on the individual. These are the yin and yang, or the rajoguna and the tamoguna, which in turn corresponds to the sympathetic nervous system. The left channel, or the tamoguna, which is also called the ida nadi in Sanskrit, or simply the left channel, begins from the sacrum bone and ends in the right hemisphere of the brain. It crosses at the third eye at the Agya chakra. This corresponds to the left sympathetic nervous system, which psychologists call as the superego. It constitutes the feminine energy or the lunar side of the personality, which Jung defines as the anima, which is its reflection at the psychological level. This left channel controls our desires, emotions, and integrates with our past experiences. It is responsible for remembering all the information acquired by education, information which is stored in the various strata of consciousness. This channel ensures, for instance, that a child who has suffered burning will not go and put his finger into the burning candle again. It acts as a sort of a brake on the personality. It is this channel which prevents action that does not comply with the canons of morality or with the conditioning acquired during life, particularly childhood. When an individual bends too much towards this side of the personality, inhibitions to action will outweigh the capacity to act. He or she will become lethargic, introverted, listless, and even fearful sometimes. And the main effect of alcohol and narcotic drugs is to swing the psyche towards this side of our personality. If a correction is not applied, the imbalance can intensify and can culminate in psychiatric diseases or disorders like depression and even to the extreme of schizophrenia. Self destructive tendencies can increase, and somatic diseases such as angina pectoris or cancer can develop. On the other hand, if this channel is functioning effectively in a normal and balanced way, the individual avoids the depressive states and is joyful in all circumstances. This is usually true of children who have had a benefit of a normal, innocent, and a happy childhood. Then the right channel or the Rajoguna, which is also called the Pingala Nadi in Sanskrit, controls the masculine aspect of the personality. It begins at the level of the Swadhisthana chakra, the second chakra, situated in the region of the right kidney, and ends in the left cerebral hemisphere, which psychologists call as the ego. It corresponds to the right side sympathetic nervous system, and for simplicity, we refer to it as a right channel. This is the channel of action and creativity on both the actual and intellectual levels. So, this is Jung's claim of animus, the right channel. It makes it possible for humankind to be free of any constraints of any nature or even climate. It allows to exercise, organize societies and develop technical abilities. And they actually were responsible for founding the first civilization. It is this channel that allows man to project himself into the future and to invent things. When the left channel is the brake on the human nature, this right channel is its accelerator. So the right channel is essential because it allows man to take individual responsibility. In a way, it's like a kind of a steering wheel of the personality, which makes it possible to undertake a course towards a destination. However, we can only use the steering wheel if the learning and the experience acquired through the left channel, that is, which forms a part of our memory, continue to give the information or wisdom necessary to avoid the dangers which our right channel is steering us through, and about the changes of direction which is necessary, or the course correction that needs to be undertaken as according to the conditions. An overactive right channel leads to excessive development of the ego, causing domination or even misuse of power. Aggression, destruction, wars, and conquests all stem directly from the right channel activity. An unbalanced left side leads to self destruction, while imbalance on the right side, with their ego consequences, lead to destruction of others. So, the right and left channels are the dual poles of our personality, which, when in balance, allows the individual to lead a life of harmony. So, what is the central path? The central path would be the Sushumna Nadi, the central channel. This channel goes inside the spinal column. It is a small thin tube, a three-layered tube, which has a hole in between, almost the gap of just one hair or so, and through which the Kundalini energy, or the energy which is a dormant energy in all of us, which lies down in the sacrum bone at below the tailbone and the pelvic region, the triangular hasti, which in Sanskrit is called the trikonasti, and it is in this triangular bone that this dormant energy lies down, curled up, and covering the gap or the hole into the Sushumna Nadi, into the central channel. So when this energy gets awakened, it rises and passes through this central hole or through the tube of the Sushumna Nadi. So in Sushumna Nadi, the breath leads the pure man into a pure world, as per the Prashna Upanishad, which says. Then the Yoga Tattva Upanishad confirms it, saying that the breath rises in the Sushumna Nadi up to the crown of the head. Through self realization, that is, through awakening of this dormant energy, the balance between the right and the left channel is restored and inner harmony is established. This is the first purifying work of the Kundalini. Sushumna is the middle path, with Buddha even spoke of. It is the way of balancing between the right and the left channel, and it is a way of evolution. Human beings are normally slaves to their mental activity. We live in our minds literally. Thoughts arise from two sources. From the right hemisphere of the brain, that is the superego, an extension of the left side or left channel, which recalls past events or the left hemisphere of the brain, which is the ego, or the right channel, the prolongation or the extension of the right channel, which projects into the future. During realization, that is awakening of the Kundalini absorbs both this ego and the superego, and all thoughts fade away. There is no past, no future, and all that remains is reality as it is. So that is in the present. And so in the present, the spirit shining in the heart penetrates into the consciousness of the individual. And at that time, the self realization that the spirit alone is, that the soul alone is. So the Kundalini and the self become one. Now, if we take this, this is as far as the Hindu scriptures are concerned, even in the Muslim, the Quran, in chapter 1, verse 6, 7, clearly indicates that we have to be on the straight path, where God bestows his favors. It is the central channel, which in yoga we call the Sushumna Nadi. In Quran, it is called Sirat al-Mustaqim, on which all the chakras or energy centers are located. This is mentioned in the prayer that those who follow Islam, who pray, who chant this prayer 48 times in a day. It says, show us the straight path, the path on which you have bestowed your favor, that is God, not of those who have incurred your wrath and have gone astray. So this is the prayer that is repeated. And what is this salah or namaz that they do when this prayer is repeated? The 5 obligatory prayers which a Muslim performs during the day. It is what Prophet Muhammad said is the miraj or ascent. And if it is done properly, it becomes actually a meditation, leading you to your mirage or ascent. Islam actually, which means surrender to Allah or God, was introduced by Prophet Muhammad somewhere around 600 AD. Quran is the word of God and Hadith is the traditions, the sayings and actions of Prophet Muhammad. The most important thing to remember about is surrender one's will to the will of God. So in that way, he should achieve his mirage or ascent. In Hadith, Prophet Muhammad has said that one has to walk on the central path and not to go to the right or the left. This means one has to not only be in balance but must maintain it. Now there are 2 channels, left and right, and it is from here that our desires and actions arise. When neither of them dominates, a person becomes balanced. If either of them dominates, then he becomes unbalanced and loses control. So this imbalance causes a lot of disturbance. A person who is in the central channel is not dominated by desires or actions, but he surrenders everything to God. They firmly believe that God takes care of everything. You know what we say in India, Bhagwan Bharose? By staying in the center, we are not disturbed by many things happening in today's hectic and stressful world. This is possible only if one has surrendered to God completely. The same thing is said in the Bhagavad Gita when it said, Karmanya vadhikarase ma falishcha kadachana ma karma phala hetur bhuma sango stav karmani. Meaning that while doing karma, surrender your actions to God. Do not fret over the fruits of the actions. What it means is that it's not that the fruits of actions will not come to you, it will definitely come, but it will not bind you or affect you when you do the actions and surrender to God. Now, how do you surrender actions to God? It is you are doing the actions. So then you have to surrender the sense of doership to God. So when you surrender the sense of doership to God, you are not there, but it is the God's power that takes over. You surrender your will to the will of the God, and then whatever actions happen, it does not become binding on you. So the sense of I am doing it should be given up at the time of doing the karma. Karma can be done only when it is propelled by the sense of desire or Ichcha Shakti, which comes from the left channel. And the action itself requires energy and momentum that comes from the right channel, which is the work of the right channel. So, and if the action is done with desires, and if it is done with an attitude of surrender or the sense of doership to the Lord, then we are not bound by the fruits thereof. That does not mean that we do not get to enjoy the fruits. We do get to enjoy the good, if they are good actions, or we may have to suffer the sorrows if they are bad actions. But the sense of attachment that happens when we get, or sense of longing for more of that enjoyment, or even for that matter, suffering, that entanglement that happens, that keep us constantly in that loop or of recurring patterns out of which we are unable to shake off or get rid of. So that bondage that happens, that constricts us, because that does not happen so when we are in the central channel. So, to put it differently, we are balanced in our energies. So there is no leaning to the left or to the right. That is, there's no influence of the past or the emotional baggage of the past, nor the undue excitement of the future. And hence, there is a balance in the energies. So, what is this subtle energy system in the human body? It consists of the seven energy centers or the plexus, where the left channel and the left channel and the right channels don't go straight right to the top, but they cross each other at certain points. Like you would have seen that symbol, which is available in the doctor's dispensary or hospitals. You might find where there are two snakes that cross each other and then emerge on the top. So they are the left and the right channels, the sympathetic nervous system. So when they move along the spinal column on either side, they cross each other at certain places. These are known as plexus or chakras or energy centers. So at these places, the energies cross each other or they intermingle with each other. And these energy centers are seven in all, with the one at the top as the seventh one. We have the root chakra or the Muladhara, which is below the triangular bone. And then we just above this triangular bone is which is the the second chakra is the sacral chakra, which is Swadhisthana. Then at the solar plexus or the Nabi, we have the Manipur chakra. Then the heart chakra at or the Anahat, just above the sternum. Then the throat chakra at the Vishuddhi. And the third eye, the sixth energy center, the third eye or the Agya chakra, and that is below the forehead, in the middle of the brain, and the Sahasrara on top of the head, near the fontanel bone area, or which is also called Brahmarandra or the Sahasrara chakra. Now the Quran says, and the Hadith also says in several places, that there are seven heavens. And there are prophets who reside in each of these heavens. So the same thing in the Indian mythology also, we have the seven lokas. Bhuloka, Bhorloka, Swarloka, the Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapoloka, Swargaloka. These are the seven heavens. And there are deities who are in charge of all these heavens. So the Swargaloka is the seventh heaven. Which they call as Arshe Mohalla, where Angel Gabriel took Muhammad from Jerusalem, from Mecca, sitting on the Burak, and ascended to the heavens. Now, here the word Burak in Quran, which is believed to be a dazzling white horse with the wings and the face of a woman. But it is in fact the Kundalini or the feminine power energy, the power of God, which lies in the triangular sacrum bone in the human body, at the base of the spine, which scientifically is, which as per the Greek, which is known as sacrum bone from Greek, and scientifically, and the trikonasthi, as I told you, in Sanskrit, it is there in all of us. And that takes us through these various heavens or lokas inside the body. As in heaven, so on earth. So just as which is in the macrocosm is there in the microcosm also. Each of us is a microcosm. So in our also body also we have these chakras or energy centers, and that gives us our ascent or mirage. So, as the story goes, where Muhammad is taken by Prophet Muhammad is taken by Gabriel through each heaven. At each heaven, at the entrance, the gate guard asks, "Who are you? Where do you want to go?" And so, in that way, one by one, he ascends each of these heavens and goes to the sixth heaven. In the seventh heaven, Prophet Muhammad met. In the sixth heaven, Gabriel told Muhammad that he will have to go alone from here to the seventh heaven. So, in the seventh heaven, Prophet Muhammad met God Almighty. It was here that he saw the tree of life. That is the Sahasrar chakra, which is there in our brain. That is the thousand petal lotus, where each petal has a different color. It shines with a different color. Again, it is also true that in each of these chakras, there are deities, and each of them have their own principles or elements, and they can be felt by vibrations. And each of these, the energy vibrations of these energy centers can be felt at the fingers of our hands. So, when we go, when these energy centers are working properly, functioning properly, then we can feel it at our fingertips on the hands. And also, when it reaches the head, top of the head, we can feel it on top of the head. After which, that is where you achieve the mirage or the ascent. The hadith also mentions something called Pursirat, which means that is the bridge that has to be crossed if one has to enter the kingdom of heaven. So this Pul Sirat, according to Hadith, is a bridge that is sharper than a sword and thinner or finer than a strand of hair, thus making it difficult for one to enter that heaven. So now this is, what is this Pul Sirat? This bridge, this is the Agya Chakra. Now many of us think that Agya Chakra is in the middle of the forehead, but it is not exactly so. It is in this 1.5 inches below this center where we put the tikka, the Hindus, and it is in the middle of the head, where from this medulla oblongata, just at the base of the brain, optic nerves go alongside, rise from here, and it goes along the ears, and it converges at a point in the center. um, uh, it converges there, and it is at that point that this Agya Chakra is there. This may even be the pineal gland, which the scientists talk about, but then this is the third, which is they talk about as a third eye. To cross, now this Agya Chakra, at this Agya Chakra, the left channel crosses over and goes to the right brain. The right channel crosses over and goes to the left brain. And the Sushumna Nadi comes from middle of the spine and goes in the middle and has to emerge out. So that is when the third Agya Chakra will get open, or it becomes, it makes the passage, that bridge that pulls Sirat open and connect the energy to the brain or to the heaven, or you can say the seventh chakra, where this whole Sahasrara, where there's an integration of all the energies. But what prevents this Agya Chakra, or this, why this thin, the bridge is called so razor sharp and thin and difficult to cross? It's because it's many times it is constricted because of most of the time either we are in our ego or superego. This ego and superego becomes like big balloons here, and because of this inflation of the balloons, there is no passage. That passageway gets constricted or get narrowed down, or cannot, the energy can't move past. So the ego is always telling us that we are right and the other person is wrong, even if they are wrong or if we are wrong. It is the ego that prevents us from forgiving another person. It is when you forgive, when you let go, this ego, the balloon of the ego becomes small and that passage opens up. So if we are constantly blaming somebody else for our faults, then we are not forgiving. So then this ego bloats. Superego contains all our conditionings of the past. And that is all our thoughts. That is our how we suffered, or how someone insulted us, or how someone punished us, or anything, any grudge that we hold. Those all come into play when we are interacting with people outside, and so the superego balloon also blows up. So this also constricts this passage, and we are not able to move past. That is, the energy is not able to move past and connect to the divine. And so it does not connect to the consciousness, the conscious awareness. So that is the essence of the past. And if this is carried too much to the extreme, the super ego that is going too much into the past, holding grudges of generations of grudges, means 300 years ago they caused harm to us, and so we hold that grudge still now. Then it goes into the collective subconscious, and we bring all that atrocities into the present. So this is where um, we create a hell for us while living. So this is what's happening when millions of people think like that. When millions of people's minds are guided to some atrocities of some civilizational atrocities done 300 years in the past, or 400 years in the past, and then when all that memory is brought to the collective subconscious comes into play. That's when that animosity, that all that revengeful attitude invades our present and clouds our thinking. So what is life? Life is what we are living, right? What is right in front of us, what we are creating day to day, what we are from morning till night, what we are doing when we go about in our life. Now this as of now, it may, or it is like, we all bring our memories of the past. We are affected, but we should not allow it to influence us, but take the wisdom of that memory in our present. In fact, past is dead and gone, right? And this now is unaffected by the events of the future. The future has not yet happened. So the present is the only reality that is there in front of us. So this is what makes crossing of that pulsirat or that Agnya chakra so difficult. And in many cases, it becomes almost impossible. So it is only when we cross this Agya Chakra or the Pulsara that you can reach the kingdom of God. Even in Christianity, the kingdom of heaven where Jesus Christ is there. This is the same for this Kundalini awakening is common for all. It is practiced in yoga. And this energy is made to pass through the 7 chakras, passing through each one of these chakras, and then reaches this Brahmarandra or the Sahasrara. So this is the same thing as ascent or mirage, which is only an ultimate truthful thing that can happen when an individual is connected to the Almighty. This is what a true Muslim should be seeking today. And yesterday was Eid. Forgive, reflect, and make dua. Pause, reflect, and reconnect with Allah. This night is full of mercy and hope. So, the power of forgiveness is the message. When we forgive, this constriction is removed and there is an opening, which is the opening of the third eye or the bridge or the pulsirat according to Islam, which when opened, you open your the way to the seventh heaven. So it is then that a seeker feels a true bliss. The secret to forgive is to forgive. And Prophet Muhammad has won more followers by this quality of forgiveness. Of course, it was not that there were no wars, there were several wars, and there were violent situations even in those days. And on every occasion, he forgave. Even though some crimes were really very, very distasteful, particularly when they involved his own relatives. In fact, on one occasion, he even says, to insult the dead is to wound the living. Such was his kind of tolerance and forgiveness. Here we are even reminded of Jesus Christ, who also said, forgive them, for they know not what they say. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. And Jesus Christ had actually taken birth to open the Agya Chakra of the cosmic Purusha or the Virata Purusha of the cosmic person on earth. So that's why he took his birth at the macrocosmic level to open the third eye, the Agya Chakra. In fact, till then, to open the third eye, only a realized saint or a guru who had had his realization, who had through lifetimes of penance has been able to rise his Kundalini to the Sahasrar. He was able to, through Shakti, that is by touching his finger on the Agya Chakra, he was able to open that passage to for the energy to move. That was on a case to case, individual to individual basis. It was not possible en masse. But when Jesus Christ came and opened that Agya Chakra, it was possible for it to be opened by anybody who had got that realization. And that is why, Jesus Christ said, forgive. So that is a trick to open the Agya Chakra. Therefore, to open this gate and transcend, a seeker must learn to forgive. And forgive he must, so that he can enter the kingdom of God. Then another feature of this, considering that it's Eid season and all, there is a practice of voodoo, that's cleansing of hands and legs by water or even earth in dry areas like the desert, which is known as tayammum. Now there is, even in Hindu temples, we have, or where there is a place of assembly where spiritual discourse is going to happen or meditation is going to happen. There's always a small square place where there's a tap where we have to wash the feet before we enter the temple. Or in some big temples, they even have flowing water along the entrance to the temple passage itself, so that even if you forget to wash the feet outside in the corner, or if there's a crowd, the feet get automatically washed. This is a kind of a symbolic cleansing that happens. Now, why is this done? This is done because it's only when our energy system is purified that there can be a free flow of energy in the body. Now, just like when we sit for meditation, we consciously cleanse, or we remove the entanglements in each energy center and cleanse it, so that the energy gets a free passage to move upwards. So also in namaz, they have an entire process whereby this energy centers are activated, and this energy passes from the palms, from the feet right up to the top of the head. Now, if we remember, many of this in the namaz, many practice involves bending forward, or sitting and bending forward. The reason being, Prophet Muhammad was a prophet. That is, he is a deity of the void. The void is this stomach region, the nabi area. So that's why we find, so when the namaz is done with, so they follow the process of bending forward or at the navel, so that the energy from the navel is pushed upwards to move up, to move towards the seventh heaven, or to move upwards to connect or to the bridge which crosses over to the seventh heaven. And if you see, Muhammad belonged to the Middle Eastern region. The whole of the Middle Eastern region is the void of the cosmic Purusha or the Virata Purusha. That is, we have so many empty spaces and tunnels and all under the ground, and which are porous places where we have deposits of gas and oil and then water underneath. All this can be related to our own stomach, the stomach area, the gut, the void. So it represents the Guru Tattva, the principle of the Guru, where not only Muhammad, other Gurus have also come, where the principle is the Guru Tattva is in the void. So doing the Salah or Namaz, it connects your Guru to your goal, to the Guru's Lakshya, that is the goal. Even in yoga, we do certain pranayama. That is where you do in the sit in sukhasana, and you do the anulom vilom, or the with the legs folded beneath, so that the spine can be held erect and the energy can move upwards. It facilitates movement of energy upwards towards the sahasrara. Even for those who are not yogis, in Hinduism, we have this Sandhya Vandanam, that is where there's an initiation into the mantras. So, chanting these mantras in the morning, evening, and even Madhyanam, that is in the afternoon, enables this Kundalini energy to remain in the central channel, and that when it is in the central channel, you're always balanced. There is no left and this right happening, bending more, leaning more towards either side. That happens. It is constantly brought to the center through mantra japa. Another question that comes up is, what we are all facing today is that of jihad. And the belief that one who sacrifices with the goods of the person have the highest rank in the sight of God. And there are people who they are the people who will achieve salvation. Of course, it is synonymous with that of martyrdom or warfare. It may require fighting in God's cause as a form of self-sacrifice. But what about the common man, where majority are common people? But it consists of true and sincere faith, which fixes the gaze in God, that all, and so all selfish or worldly desires are paltry, means are insignificant as compared to the our dedication to God or surrender to God. Earnest and ceaseless activity involving sacrifice should also be in the service of God. So, brutal fighting is opposed to the spirit of jihad. If you are attached to friends and family or the wealth that you have accumulated, then they will become more important than maintaining this connection. So, then what you will have to do is, if you're too much attached, then you'll have to wait until the bestows his grace upon you. The God does not guide the rebellious kind of people. If all that you have earned and accumulated for dignity or comfort come in the way of God's cause, then we have to choose what we love and what we can sacrifice. So when he is at a loss as to what to do, then faith or doing righteous things, doing good things, and mutually teaching each other truth, patience, and constancy, these are the guiding forces. Apart from this, we find people involved in backbiting, scandal mongering, using scandals to mislead people. fool and manipulate them, all for selfish reasons, for power and position. Wars are fought where lives, property, and morality is destroyed. When few people try to control a large number of people, then a large number of people suffer. Money is a means to an end, and just holding it will not serve any purpose. It creates suspicions, it leads to hatred, jealousy, licentiousness, and then arrogance. All these qualities are the qualities of an asura or a demon, demonic qualities. And that is what is described in the Mudgal Purana. All of the Puranas, they speak of where gods kill demons or rakshasas and evil beings who are huge in size. And physically, they are ferocious to look at. But Mudgal Puran deals with the demons of the mind, of the asuras of the mind. Now, this Mudgal Puran, which I spoke to you about some days back, on which was kept locked in for 3-4 centuries in a trunk, and then was discovered and published around 1970 or 70s or so. So this comes at a time when the mental asuras have captured the world. So these are the Mudgal Puran speaks of incarnations of Ganesha, was taken various incarnations to kill or to control these asuras, these demons of the mind. So in Kruta Yuga, Ganesha had incarnated as Vinayaka, born to Maharishi Kashyap and Aditi. He came to kill Devantak and Narantak, the two demons. Then in the Treta Yuga, he incarnated as Mayureshwar to kill Asura called Sindhurasur. The Sindhurasur was born to Chakrapani and his wife Ugra. This Mayureshwar, he had manifested um, in when Parvati had prayed to this Girijatmaja on Lenyadri mountain, he manifested, and at that time Girijatmaja had killed many of the demons like Grudasur, Kshetrasur, Krorasur, Vyomasur, Vikatan, Satam, Satmahisha, Kamtasur, Talpasur, Dundubasur, Salabhasur, Nupurasur, Kadarmasur, Vrkasur, and so many others. So then he got married to Siddhi and Buddhi, daughters of Brahma. Then Sri Mayureshwar was named Sri Gunesh initially, and after killing Mayur, he got the name of Mayureshwar. Then Sri Gajanana in Dwapar Yuga, Ganesha manifested as Sri Gajanana to Shiva and Uma in Kailash. Now this Gajanana, he was the one who killed Sindhurasur of the Treta Yuga. Now, the Sindhurasur, he was creating havoc everywhere since Treta Yuga to Dwapara Yuga. So, when Ganesha was born to Shiva and Parvati, at that time he told, "Take me to Mahishmati." In Mahishmati, there was a couple called King Varinya and Pushpika. These two, the king and queen, had been meditating on Ganesha since Treta Yuga. In Treta Yuga, for thousands, lakhs of, means in those days they could live up to 60,000, 70,000 years, one lifetime. So, they were meditating and they were given a boon by Ganesha that I'll be born as your son. So in Dwapara Yuga, then they passed away in Treta Yuga. After that, when they were reborn in Dwapara Yuga as King Varinya and Pushpika, they got a son. But that son was taken away by one Rakshasi. was just snatched away and taken away by one Rakshasi. And so Gajanana, who had manifested as the son of Shiva and Uma in Kailash, he said that take me to Mahishmati and put me near Pushpika, and because I had promised them that I will be born as your son. So when this Pushpika got up and saw this Ganesha, she found him with four arms and trunk of an elephant and all the weapons and everything. She was so frightened. She asked the courtesans to go and leave the child near the riverside. So they went and left the child near the riverside. Maharishi Parasar saw this child and picked it up and nurtured it and taught him all the Vedas and everything. Ganesha was around 12 years old at that time. And so at that time, Sindhurasura was creating a havoc near that area. So when Sindhurasur came to know of Gajanana, he went. Now, Sindhurasur, he had done penance and got a boon from Brahma that anyone whom he embraces will be killed. So he was just embracing one king after another and he was accumulating kingdoms and by just embracing them. And so one day he went to he went and tried to go and embrace Brahma himself. Brahma got frightened and he came to Gajanana. And when Gajanana came to know of it, he went in front of Sindhurasur. Sindhurasur came to embrace him, but Gajanana grew in size and strength. He enlarged himself so much that when Sindhurasur came to embrace him, he shattered him. That Sindhurasur blood flowed all over the body. He applied all the body on his body. Ganesha, that is why we apply Sindur as a mark of the killing of that Sindhurasur. And at that time, that blood of Sindhurasur fell into Narmada river, making some of the pebbles in the Narmada, the rocks on the riverbed in Narmada are red in color. That's why even some pebbles now which we find at the riverbed of Narmada is considered as Narmada Ganesh, and it's worshipped. It's kept in the puja place and it's worshipped by people in India. Now this Gajanan, after killing Sindhurasur, he told the Ganesh Gita to King Varenya, because King Varenya by then realized that this Ganesha was a Gajanana this Gajanana was the Ganesha who had promised that he would be born to him as a son. And so he went and surrendered to him and asked him to give him knowledge of peace, because now he wanted Purna Yoga Shanti, and that is what is the advice given in Ganesh Gita. So then, in this way, Ganesha manifested several times to kill the mental, mind born demons. Which are they? One is the Matsarasur, that is of hatred. And for that, he took the incarnation of Vakratunda. That is where, as Deha Brahma. Then Madasur, that is the demon of intoxicating with pride. And for that, in Ganesha took the incarnation of Ekadanta in Dehi Brahma. Then to kill the demon of Mohasura, that is infatuation or delusion, he took the incarnation of Mahodara, where he was born in as Jnana Brahma. Then to kill Lobhasura, that is the demon of greed. He was killed by Gajanana, the incarnation of Gajanana as Sankhya Brahma. Then to kill Krodhasura, or to subdue Krodhasura, that is anger, he took the incarnation of Lambodara as a Shakti Brahma. For Kamasura, that is the desire or lust, he had to take the incarnation as Vikata, as Saura Brahma. Then there is a demon of possessiveness, I, me, mine. So that is Mamasura. He was born as Vignaraja to Seshanaga, illuminator of Brahma and Vishnu. Then Abhimanasura, that is arrogance or conceit. This kind of arrogance, extreme arrogance, Ganesha takes the incarnation of Dhumravarana. It will happen towards the end of Kali Yuga, that is from Shiva Brahma. So now how is this Mudgal Puran apt for the present times? Today we are facing extreme emotions in man, like greed for wealth, extreme jealousies, and an intoxication for power. And we see nations going to war and killing people of other nations to gain control and power. Lust, greed, and anger has intoxicated people in positions of power, influence, and control to go to any extent to retain that power and influence others, even when the oppressed are suffering and have no means to help themselves. They are at a loss and do not know what to do. It is at these times Ganesha takes incarnations to kill all these mental demons. Since these mental demons are not something tangible, that is, that can be killed physically, Ganesha also does not appear physically but in the form of diseases like cancer, mental illnesses, and makes these demons incapacitated. The ultimate of all these demons is the ego or arrogance, for which Ganesha will take the incarnation of Dhumravana, which will happen towards the end of Kali Yuga. Perhaps by that time we'll all be so blinded by delusion, as the name Dhumraman suggests, which means smoky or smoky colored or grey in color, indicating a kind of a foggy situation, a lack of mental clarity. As at that time, if we are not awake, alert, and are in that kind of a deluded mental condition by these forces of power, then Dhumravarna will come to destroy such delusion and reset the world to its normalcy, or restore dharma and destroy adharma, that which is not righteous. So at this point in time, when we are seeing this whole world in confusion, a world rid with war, destruction, and burning of well constructed structures that hitherto served us, now being destroyed out of hatred, vengeance, and revenge. At a time when we see all resources, the oil, gas, and energy supplied to keep things moving, prices soaring for want of energy for movement of goods from one place to another, armies mercilessly and senselessly attacking each other, showing no sense of respite. In fact, every day the triggering of fresh barrage of attack, leaving the whole gut region of the Virata Purush, burning and in rage. No amount of pouring of water can quieten this raging flames of fury, and peace seems to be nowhere in sight. So now, what do we do? Is the mind even capable of thinking with sanity to come up with some kind of a solution to this madness? Are there leaders who can forge a dialogue to bring these warring minds to senses? Are there mediators who can be the bridge between the gut and the goal by initiating a feeling of remorse that perhaps may get converted to forgiveness? Is there a foothold space that can enter this epic fury, raging in the oppressor and the oppressed? In fact, the difference between the oppressor and the oppressed seems to narrow down. It seems to be actually merging into one, and we are left to guess as to who is actually the oppressor and the oppressed. There is intermingling of forces, and many others actually joining in the fray. Is there a ray of hope? When will all this left and right sided energies converge into the central channel and bring balance of energies? So, if we are to look at the Virata Purusha or the cosmic Purusha on the earth as a whole, then the spine begins from the tailbone, which is in Australia, moving through the Kundalini in Maharashtra in India, and the navel and the gut in the Middle East, the heart in England and the rest of Europe, throat in the US, North America, and then going around as the Agya Chakra in China and Russia, and the Sahasrara in the Himalayas, back in India, in the Himalayas. So, if we have to mediate in this present scenario, it will have to be moving the creative forces or the Swadhisthana chakra, which is actually in Iran, and the US, which are at loggerheads. So the gut and the third eye, the bridge, and the sixth heaven, if they are to meet and the energy has to be bridged between the two, both will have to bend towards each other or the head to the ground in surrender to each other. Then only the individual meeting can happen within themselves, and then it may get reflected externally in the geographic as a whole. There seems to be no way to reach from external periphery as the present circumstances or the conditions that is prevailing today, except perhaps infuse some more energy from the Kundalini to surge through the Sahasrar, cleansing the channels along the way. So the energy has to flow from east to west, unlike what is happening at the moment of the flow from west to east. And that is why all attempts are being made to actually suppress this. So this suppression is creating the choking point, and the whole world is being held in paralysis. Another way would be to resume operations from the external periphery, that is, resume operations all the way from Australia, along the Cape of Good Hope, South Africa, via Atlanta to Canada. Then from Canada, that is from the Alaska route on the Pacific side, via South America, entering the Atlanta into the Europe. So this will result, this movement, either in the space, or in fact space, that is air element and water element in the oceans. It will cause a ruffle, it will cause a change of energies, or say dispersing and interspersing of energies to bring a more malleable exchange of energies, resulting in a depression in the present equation. This shift in energies may make the nations to think afresh from a fresh perspective and put an end to this cascading situation that seems to bring only more destruction in sight than any sense of peace or restoration to normalcy. Now that the national security policy of the US has made the oceans of the world almost like a freeway for everybody, a trial like this will cause no harm, at least in the next 2 weeks. So, if at all anything can be accomplished, at least the warring minds will be engaged in an activity that is different than breathing down each other's throats. Let me know your take on this. But before I leave you, I would like to mention another thing. We cannot open the Agya Chakra or the passage to the Sahasrara of connecting from the sixth energy center to the seventh until and unless our Viveka Buddhi is opened. And that Viveka Buddhi is another center which is called the Hamsa Chakra, which is at the bridge of the eyebrows. Here at this point, bridge of the eyebrows, is a center where our left channel, that is our breathing left channel, the nostrils by which we breathe, the left nostril and the right nostril, it connects at that place, and at that point there is a very delicate energy center. Just at that point, it is also the deity, where the deity is Mahasaraswati. And at that point, it's known as a Hamsa chakra because Hamsa means a swan. A swan is supposed to be able to have the capacity to sift through a mixture of milk and water and drink only the milk. It's able to pick up only the milk, and from mixture of a bowl of milk and water. So that is to select what is right from the wrong. So that is called a Viveka Buddhi. Viveka Buddhi means sense of discrimination. So that when that is opened, then only the Agya Chakra will open. So that is why, unless so it's not exactly that bridge. It's this Hamsa chakra that gets reflected on the Agya chakra, which gives a Viveka Buddhi to know what is right. And then you say, then you sort of forgive, and then that opens, that gives, that reduces the balloons and gives the passage to research. So that's a clue that I gave, which not many texts speak about, of how to open that this sense of the Hamsa chakra, because then alone, because and that is opened in a different passage. It is opened through the physical breath, whereas the other is the energy centers. So when the breath and energy gets see, when you in breath, breath is connected to the mind. So when we control our breathing by bringing that point, by cleansing this chakra by anulom vilom, that is by breathing through the left nostril, exhaling to the right, inhaling through the right and exhaling to the left, you activate the chakra, whereby you can segregate the mind from your pranavayu or the life force. So at that time, the energy gets a passage between the forces of the mind, the thinking, the constant flux that is there. So then that quietens down, and the energy gets a space to go forward. So that's the secret there. So let me know your take on this. And for now, bye, friends.